Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast edition of a talk show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a podcast studio and I have two special guests on today. So I was like, let's take it into this training studio.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're here. We're going to share some value with you guys. So you guys have been in my world for a minute. You're part of the academy. You work with Julia. I
do.
We have Everlyn and Cayenne.
Yeah.
I didn't butcher either of your guys' names. Nope, I'm good.
Evelyn, Cayenne. Sounds
Cayenne.
good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I always butcher everyone's names. So they work with Julia, and Julia is one of my trainers for Natural Beauty Rose. And I follow everybody, but it's like I feel like I know you guys, but I don't. You know what I mean?
That's how it
but
is.
I love seeing like little tidbits of your personalities. Your reels kill me.
They're so
Because
good.
you seem kind of quiet in person, and then I see you on Instagram, and you're like,
Outrageous. Money around.
it's like you're like, hairdressers make money, and you're like literally.
Yeah, they do.
The behind the scenes was even better because afterwards there's just like money
Just this
everywhere.
cash
in the salon.
everywhere.
I was like,
Real dollar bills.
yeah. I was like, okay, get it all back.
No, and then Julia saw the behind the scenes, and Julia was like, "You guys better make sure all that cash gets put back in the till."
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for being on the show. I know you guys are here. Julia's actually teaching one of our classes. Did you just come for a little sunlight, or
Listen to the sun. I like to hijack Julia's trips when she comes down here.
That's so funny.
This time we just
same.
needed a whole salon thing.
Honestly, like I was telling Julia, I'm like, they probably could have sat in some of the class if they wanted. She's like, yeah, I'm sure they're out enjoying the sun and doing the things. But so how long, when did you guys, I know you guys work with Julia. I want to get a little bit of each of your stories and kind of like how long have you been doing hair? When did you kind of merge into the Muse family, which is the name of your salon is Muse, right?
Muse
Just
Extension
Muse, right?
Lounge. Muse Extension Lounge.
Muse Extension Lounge. And we'll kind of go that route. How many is it at Muse now?
So we have 4 in Washington,
Okay.
and then Julia's opening up
forgot Arizona.
Arizona, and so she has an assistant down there.
Okay, is it just Julia in Arizona right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it is.
what made her crazy self go do all the way down to Arizona?
She loves the sunshine.
That's
She
so
loves the
funny.
sunshine.
And where are you guys located out of?
We are in Olympia, Washington.
Is it cold there right now?
Yeah, it's like super rainy, sideways rain.
Oh, okay.
Sideways
I
rain.
don't love, like, is it by Seattle?
It's
an hour away.
south.
Okay, so it's cold and rainy, and
It
she's
is.
like, I wanted an excuse to escape. I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always come to California, but Arizona's like guaranteed sunny.
Yeah.
It is.
Like California, it's usually, but sometimes it's gonna be cold. I'm glad you guys got to come. It's been cold, like now. It's
Honestly,
actually,
just having the blue sky and the sun is so nice.
it makes your mood so much different, huh?
It does. Yeah.
Okay, Evelyn, let's start with you.
Okay.
How long have you been doing hair?
I've been doing hair since 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't you just give me a number, like 10 years?
8
I'm
years.
just kidding.
Is that 8 years?
I know I have to do some mental math.
I didn't want to have to do my own math.
So 8 years.
Yeah.
And have you done, I know you do obviously do Natural Beauty Rose. Have you done any other types of extensions?
I did, yeah. So the first one that I worked at, they offered like a fusion type extension, and I started out as like the newbie, and I actually didn't want to offer that, and so I went on this great quest at that point in time to kind of figure out what I liked, and I tried tape-ins for a hot second, and was like, no, and that's what led me down the path to finding MBR eventually.
Did you find MBR through Julia, or did you find it prior to working at Muse?
Prior to working, I actually have been working with Julia since her previous salon.
Okay.
But even prior to that, so I started listening to the podcast back in probably like 2017.
Oh, really?
yeah.
Long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was like super obsessed with it, and that was actually how like Julia and I, when we first started working together, how we were like, really connected.
Oh, cool. Because you guys are both kind of podcast listeners.
Yeah. So, it was before she had come down to her first BMS Con intensive and stuff. So we just like, we were like little fangirls.
When did you end up joining the academy? Are you licensed? You're licensed, right?
Yeah.
When-
So I ended up joining in February of 2020, right before the whole world shut down.
Oh, okay.
I was like that first kind of group of the academy who, it was like an 18-month program. I think there was like only 3 or 4 of those classes, and then everything shut down. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a good time to join because there is so much online education available with it.
Yeah.
And it's like before I always joke around, I'm like, before we had the academy, I had a mastermind, and it was like so many events, which was great, but it's so hard for artists to actually clear their schedule in order to come to these events.
Yeah.
And I was like, why can't we create something where they can consume it at their own pace? But on the flip side, I'm like, I can't be there to babysit them to make sure that they're actually going through the work inside the academy.
Yeah.
So originally when I created the academy, I was like, this is a 12-month program. I think it can be done in 9, but let's stretch it to 12. And then when artists weren't getting it done, I'm like, okay, this is an 18-month program.
Just extend it.
And now I've like actually gone back to, I'm like, no, this is a 12-month program because we have a few students in like our class going right now. One of them took like 7 months. One of them's like at the 9-month mark. I'm like, I knew it could be done. It's just a matter of committing and doing the actual work.
Definitely.
So being inside of Muse, it's probably nice that you guys have like a community inside of like, we have the academy, right? Which is like a kind of essentially our community. But it's even cooler that you guys have built your own community where you guys kind of have all the same like core values as far as like we're all in the same education. So it's not like just about pretty hair. It's not just about extensions. Talk to me, like, what have you found through just like being in this, immersed in this program? What has been your experience of like, when a hairstylist first comes in the industry and it's like, you just want to like burn yourself to the ground and then you'll be successful. But you probably hate your husband, have a lot of mom guilt going on. Probably miss out on
no life.
Miss out on raising your kids. Probably a bank account that barely reflects because you don't know how to balance your money anyway. So tell me, what has your thought process changed in this entire thing? Like, what are your aspirations? What do you expect now as being an artist? Like, have you had mind shifts where you're like, I'm not willing to tolerate this. This is what I expect out of being an artist. Like, kind of share your own like transition of not just hair, but like who you have become in the process.
Yeah, so I had kind of an interesting start with hair because I became a hairstylist, and then within that year I got pregnant with my daughter. And at first it was just, I'd worked like a million different kinds of jobs. I was like that young 20-something that just like, oh, I'm not gonna go to college, I'm gonna try this and this. I went into like event planning and and I just landed in hair because it sounded fun at the time. And then I got pregnant, and then within a couple months of having my daughter, I was a single mom. And I had to get really serious really fast about hair. And so I did just like what you said. I just took everything. I did everything. I was doing makeup for weddings, updos. Really bad at makeup. I'm really bad at makeup. Like terrible.
Doing makeup though.
Sorry.
I did pedicures at one point, so
I'm sorry to those brides. Sorry. But yeah, I just thought that I had to hustle to survive. And it was honestly, I remember one day, it was right when podcasts were starting to kind of become a thing. And I just typed in, I was like, I wonder if there's any hairstylist podcasts. That'd be cool. And your podcast had just went like #1.
Oh, cool.
And it was at that moment that I was like, whoa, I don't have to work like this. I don't have to never see my daughter. I don't have to have, because I had massive anxiety leaving her because it's just like new mom.
New mom guilt.
Yeah. And so it was at that moment that I just kind of like tore my entire life apart. I moved towns to be in a bigger town and just to get to where I am today. So it definitely was a big evolution over a short amount of time.
It's crazy too, because I feel like children put perspective on things to where you're like, you get to this place of like burnout, but then you're in a space of like, you're feeling all this mom guilt and you're like, let me get this straight. I feel guilty, I feel shitty, plus I'm burning out. You're like, something has to change, right?
Yes.
And so that's when you really make these shifts or these pivots in your life. And it's how you kind of move to the next level. And what's cool is like you can continually keep doing that in your life and move to the next level. But it almost gets a little bit harder when you get a little bit more comfortable, right? Because when you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain.
Yeah.
So it's in a place where you have success to be like, there's an abundant amount of success, and how do I get there, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that we we will and can do it inside the academy. Like I feel like we're not breeding, but like I'm breeding a higher, like a higher caliber of an artist who can pave the way for a new artist. And it probably starts with artists like you that are like, I'm not going to do this, right? I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. And what's cool with your story is you did it when, is your daughter, son? Daughter was probably little. Like you didn't tolerate it for very long.
Yeah.
How
I
old
was
was
still breastfeeding when I was like doing all of this.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? It's like, so when she was a baby, that's when you made like your first mind shift. How old is your daughter now?
She is 6.5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think you get to this point where I don't think I would have ever had as big of dreams as I have now if that moment hadn't happened.
Yeah.
Like if that, like I can't sink at this point. I have to swim.
There's literally nothing else.
There's nothing else I can do but go up from here. If I go down, that'll be real bad.
Yeah.
So, it just, I think that it's those moments, and it doesn't always have to be becoming a parent or anything like that, but I think it takes that pinch sometimes and that pain to open up.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's
your
like it's like
capability.
that first pivot is always the hardest, and then when you have another pivot or a hard time in your life, you remember that you got through it before, and even though it's sticky and it's hard, you're like, you know what though, I did it before and I had like even more to lose, or it was even shittier then and I did it then. So why am I scared to make the next leap, right?
Yeah.
This space that I'm in right now is not even as scary as it was when I made that pivot.
Yeah.
And so for me, it makes it easier to say, okay, let's go. Let's make it to the next level, whether it's a price increase, whether it's physically moving to a new salon. Like that might have been like terrifying based off like what we were taught in the beginning as a hairstylist.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, this is what I need to do. And it's like the more you can give yourself permission, not that it gets easier, but the more that you can recognize those hard times and make those pivots, like the faster you grow. So tell me, okay, so that was probably like your game changer where you're like, I got to do something else. And yeah, kids hold it. Do you have any kids?
I don't have any kids.
Not yet.
I have a
You
fur
just
baby.
Wait.
Just Penny.
I'm a doggy.
Yeah. But it's crazy. So then you move, and then like I feel like there's a piece in a story in the middle that we're missing. I'm like, all right, extension specialist, licensed artist.
I don't even want to admit this to you.
Do it. Take us off the cliff.
Okay, so I mean, at that point in time, I was like on food stamps. I was making, even though I was doing every single service known to man, I lived in this tiny town called Aberdeen, Washington. And I was just telling myself all the stories that I feel like so many of us hairstylists do. Like, I can't charge that. I can't do this. I can't, can't. And so I was listening to your podcast, but I told myself that it was just like too much money to try to invest in education right now. And then I would just like find some kind of method that was kind of similar. And I ended up going, and I drove 6 hours one way and 6 hours back to take this class down in nowhere, Oregon. I left like 3 a.m. I drove back at 5 p.m. Because I didn't have any money to even get a hotel to go down there. And so that was the same week that I ended up starting working at a salon called Moda Capelli that Julia owned at the time, co-owned. And so I just like waltzed in and I was like, I'm doing extensions. And I brought like all these models in and they were like, who's this crazy person? But what I quickly found out is even though I was like a super dedicated artist and I always have really cared, I've always really cared about the result. And I think that's what like got me to a point where I was doing okay. But then I was sitting next to Julia, who she waited because I didn't want to wait. This was also like summertime before BMS.
Waited?
So she waited for BMS Con 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I had done this like kind of in like June before. And
So you did the education before Julia did?
I did like a hand-tied class.
Oh, the one you drove to Timbuktu.
Middle of nowhere.
Okay.
And so we kind of like both started, and that's the beautiful thing about Julia is that even though we were like doing this thing that you would think would be like this competitive thing in a salon, we just like, it wasn't. We loved each other so much, and that was why when it was amazing actually to watch. It was so amazing because she was doing Mastermind and she was like turning in homework all the time and she was always like doing all of this stuff. And I just watched her career explode as I felt like I was doing like I was posting a lot and I was doing things like that I felt were similar, but just it was so obvious that whatever she was learning was just propelling her at this really fast rate. And so we always talk about.
So she was inside of MBR Education. You guys were both doing, you weren't competing, but you were both doing hand-tied systems, but you took different education.
Yeah. Okay. And so we were literally working right next to each other.
Yeah.
And the only ones doing extensions in that salon too. So everyone just thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man, because we were trying to figure it out. We're making huge messes in the back. We're like
where's all this hair
coloring
everywhere?
lifts and and yeah. So I think it was that moment. We sat down and we talked about it, and I was like, I have to do what you're doing. I have to this isn't it. It's okay. It's whatever, but it's not. I'm not getting what I need.
What did you see specifically in Julia? Did you see, was it like her marketing? Was it her quality of work? Was it just like she was just kind of like getting more clients in? Like, what was it specifically that you're like, why I need that?
It wasn't the clients so much at first. It was more the quality of, I'm like an artist through and through. It was the quality of work, like her root blends and like everything she was doing. I was taught to color the extensions way differently and not as. And so I just started like mimicking her a little bit, and I was like, "Yeah, that's good. That's smart. Like,
That makes sense.
yeah." And then it started. I think was when it started. Like she just had a windfall of kind of clients come in, and like because her work was just beautiful. Like she's an artist too. She's just beautiful at what she does, and so that's when I was like, "Okay, I was a dummy. I should have just paid the I think it was like $1,000 more at the time." I should have just done it, and I could have been where Julia's at now if I had just
I always say to new students when they're like, now's not the right time. It's never the right time.
No.
The only time that we think it's the right time is, like I said, when we feel like we're at rock bottom and there's no other choice. Then all of a sudden the right time presents itself.
Yeah.
So if you can recognize when it's the right time before you actually hit rock bottom, you'll get a lot further faster in life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for me, I always tell new students, I'm like, I get it. Like, you're like, I can't do it because it's a story. And you might physically not have any money in your bank. Still a story, right? Because whatever we choose to prioritize, whatever we want, we will make it happen. We will find the money and we will make it happen. And so it's crazy. So I'd like to put it in perspective. When an artist is like, hey, I really want to join the academy, or I really want to take one of your events, and we are one of the higher tickets in the industry, and they're like, I can't do it. And I'm like, you can't expect clients to pay you thousands of the dollars if you're not willing to invest in yourself in the thousands of dollars. If you YouTube or you drive to Timbuktu and take a 3-hour demo class, it's going to take you a while to catch back up. And so I always say, break it down. If you're going to take, a $5,000 course, how many extension clients would that take? 2.
Yeah.
2. To pay back your investment. If you don't believe in yourself enough to get 2 clients in the door, you're in the wrong industry. And this is now a marketing problem. This is now a self-belief problem. I don't care what industry you're in. Everything is, if you're any kind of service, you're in sales, right? So if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to make it in another industry where you're selling anything. And it's crazy. Like, I've had a lot of artists are like, oh, okay, right? So it's like, how many areas in our life are you holding yourself hostage merely because you don't believe in yourself? Right? Yeah. It's not even a money thing. It's not a time thing. I was just doing a podcast with, what is her name? Shit. Well, I was just doing another podcast, and sorry, so many students, so many things all in one day.
In and out.
And we were just talking about how, like, before we had kids, we had all this free time. We're like, what the hell did I do with my time? And then all of a sudden she has twins, and she was like, yeah, when my kids would go to bed, I'm like, isn't that funny? Like, when you don't have kids, you don't utilize your time. And then when you have kids, you're like, I'll stay up till midnight.
Yeah.
I'll get everything done in a half hour.
I can get that done.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, it's just crazy. Well, I'm proud of the work that you've done. It's been fun for me to see your personality show up. Like, I truly believe that is like one of the big things that now with marketing and social media, like that's what's gonna get a client in your chair. Like you're like funny, like even though you're doing the dollar, like it doesn't matter. You're like, I'm gonna follow her because she's funny. And then the more they follow her, like, you know what, I relate to her, I trust her. Oh, and guess what? Her art is beautiful. And I want to go sit in her chair, right? And amongst a sea of pretty pictures on social media, it's like the best way you can stand out is to share your story and be yourself, honestly. And that's even like down to like, when I started my brand, I got on YouTube because there was no Instagram, and I was just talking about, I'm like, I have shitty toddler hair, and my bed was unmade in the background, and I was like,
I've watched them.
I was like, I might not stay with my husband, but so I need you to come sit in my chair so I can pay the bills. No, that wasn't that dark, but it was kind of how it felt. But yeah, okay. So let's. Thank you for sharing your story. It was beautiful. I'm sure I wanna like keep going, but I'm like, this could be a 3-hour podcast. Okay, so you have a fur baby.
I do.
Like a gerbil or what?
No, she's a dog, a basset hound. Her name's
cute.
Petty.
Cute. Are you married?
I am married.
Nice. How long have you been married?
I've been married going on 3 years now.
Oh, okay. So pretty new. Do you see kids in your future or more fur babies?
Maybe further off in the future. Not right now.
Like not right now. You're like, I'm good. I'm good.
okay right now. Yeah.
So how long have you been doing hair for?
So I've been doing hair. Let me do the mental math.
Yeah. So it's like, please don't tell me since like I was gonna say 1990. You guys.
1990. Well,
not that long.
I've been doing hair like 6 or 7 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And when did you start working at Muse? Like, has that been?
It's been 2 years now that I've started working at Muse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're fresh. You're
I'm
still
fresh.
sort of newish. How many artists do you have? 4 at that one?
Yeah, there's 4.
Do you still have that guy?
No, we just have Shane. He's in Arizona. He's the new guy.
I know. I was like, can I ask that? I feel like there was gonna be like, wah wah. It's all right. We don't have to go into that story. So you've been at Muse. What made you want to go work at Muse? Had you been doing extensions prior? Like, were you in the academy before you went there?
No, actually, I was living a few hours away in a different city in Washington, and I was still working in a salon over there, but I was kind of like just doing everything also. And I wasn't doing extensions though, because the first salon I was at, we did like the little keratin, like the glue ones, and I hated doing them. I was like, never again. I'm never doing extensions. So I kind of ruled those out. But randomly one day, a client called the salon. She wanted to blow out. She had extensions. No one else at the salon wanted to do a blowout with them. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'll take her, because I was saying yes to everything. So I was like, give her to me.
You're like, I have time.
Yeah,
Sure.
I have time. Put her in my chair. So I took her, and she had NBR, and I had never seen it before. So I was asking her all these questions about her hair and the extensions and like where she got it done. And she actually had gotten her hair done by Julia.
Oh, okay.
So it is really funny, yeah. So I started following Julia, started following NBR, everything. And then I forget exactly like the timeline of it, but soon after that is when lockdown happened with all the COVID and everything. And so
you guys kind of came in about the same time?
Yeah, so you did February 2020. I signed up.
Did you come to a live event? Were you able to come to a live event? Like,
I came to, my phase 1 was live, and then I was part of the...
Did you do a virtual experience for your first one?
For my first convention,
okay.
Yeah. And so I signed up in like August of 2020. So like a few months after Evelyn. And then I came down in October of that year to do my like in-person like phase 1 intensive. Yeah.
Did I teach it?
You did.
Okay, I was like,
yes.
I feel like I remember.
You were there.
Yeah, I was like, did I teach it? I don't teach all of them. Like, I don't teach except for cut, style, photo finish now. So I'm like, I never know. I'm like, I used to teach the whole thing.
Yeah,
you taught
you were there.
I did? Okay,
Over in like the old location in Laguna.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah. So that's how I found NBR and extensions. And once I had come to my class here, my phase 1 class, I knew instantly like I didn't want to be doing anything else besides NBR, because I was just so inspired by everything that like the coaches were talking about, like you and all the other students.
Had you learned any other like hand-dyed systems or any extensions prior?
No.
Oh, you said you did
just the little keratin ones, but no other.
You're like, I'll never do extensions again.
Yeah. But then, at my class, I knew I only wanted to be doing NBR, and I had been going to see Evelyn actually to get my own MBR because I was like, I'm going to be doing this method. I want to have it on myself. So Evelyn had been doing my hair. And so it was that same weekend that Julia was coming up to do her platform artist model.
Oh, okay.
So we were in California at the same time. And so I reached out to her and I was like, Julia, what do I have to do to work at Muse? Like, I will move. I live 2 hours away. I'll move. Like, what do I have to do? I just want to work at Muse. I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's how I found Muse and Naturally Rose.
So how long have you been at Muse then for? 3? No, what
2
did you say?
years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And and you've been doing hair for 8 years.
Yeah, about.
So I feel like it's so interesting to hear people's like stories, right? Because like you have your story where you're like, oh my God, like I uprooted my life, and it's not that you didn't, right? But I almost am like, I'm always like, oh, you didn't have to go through like the shitty space, the mud. Like you found Julia, and you were like, oh, cool, and like now you're in it where like you're in the academy before you learn like shitty patterns and behaviors inside the industry, right? And it's like you're in a space, like it's like when new students come in, they're like, I've been doing hair for like 1 or 2 years. I'm like, oh good, let me help you before you get trained that you're worth nothing.
Yeah, start off on the good foot with the good habits.
Good habits, good boundaries,
Yeah.
good business savvy, like good community of artists that like support you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were kind of like, hey, this is what I want.
Yeah.
You're like, and not that you didn't like do the work, but you're like, I'll move, I'll do whatever to get there.
Yeah.
But you recognize quickly, you're like, yeah, this is as an artist, I want to do beautiful work. I want to have a great life. I want to like be around people that are believe in the same core values as I do.
Yeah.
So what is like being newly married? Like, do you feel like how often do you girls work? Like, are you 4 days a week?
4 days. 4 days a week.
I'm a 3.5-er.
3.5.
Yeah.
3.5.
3.5.
It's funny. I used to work 3. I did. I used to work 6, and then I was like, that's exhausting. But I was doing 6 of both extensions and a lot of colors.
Okay.
And then I went down to 4, but I still had a handful of colors. This was like 10 years ago, though, because I've been doing hair for 20 years. Actually, 20. Actually, how old am I? I've been doing hair.
Math.
I know. No, I've been behind the chair for over 20 years now. So 10 years ago, I was working like 6 days, and then I cut to 4 days, and then finally I was like, this is so stupid. And I went to 3 days a week, and like just extensions. I finally like put my foot down, like canceled my appointments overnight. Like women like lost their shit. They were like, how dare you?
Yeah.
You're a hairstylist. You must work on me. I was like, nah, bitch.
No, not anymore.
Not that I was, but really, you know what I say, no bitch too is myself. Like I had allowed that, you know, I allowed root touch-ups and pedicures. Just kidding, not,
Pedicures.
I actually really did pedicures, but that was like way a long time ago. Eyebrow waxing, any add-on service I could do, blow dries. But yeah, the minute I went to 3 days and was only doing extensions, I tripled my income, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do with this free time.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why don't I hang out with my children?
Yeah.
And then
I can have a life outside of work.
But that's what's so crazy, and that's what I promote inside of our industry is success doesn't equal working, having full books. Success doesn't equal burning yourself out. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like loving your clients, like loving the art, being able to hand select your clients, even to the point where like, you know what gets really, really cool, you guys, is like not about just like cutting out service, but you get to the point too, you're like, she makes me sweaty.
Like I just don't want to do her hair anymore.
And guess what?
We were just talking about this.
Right? Because it's like, that's like the last weeds you weed off your book. It's like, I've got rid of single services, I've got rid of any kids, men's, like whatever, like even colors. Like you're like, and you're down to just extensions. Now you're like, she makes me sweaty, she makes me sweaty, and she makes me sweaty. And then it's like you really are like hand selecting. You're like, my space is so valuable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I have to be best friends with all my clients, but I do want to enjoy the art, and I want them to enjoy the process, right?
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
that's kind of like the next space you get into. Do both of you guys have assistants, or how does it work at Muse with assistants?
So right now, the 4 of us, Vic is our other Muse girl.
She asked us to plug. We're hiring.
That's right.
She's alone.
Vic is our only assistant right now.
And he helps everybody.
She assists all of us. So yeah.
She.
That's how.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's actually
Vic.
here. This is her
she's
phase
at her
3.
class right now.
She redhead?
Yeah.
She
Oh,
is.
cute. She's
Yeah.
cute.
She is
So
really
she's
cute.
kind of helping everybody.
She helps everyone. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah,
man.
she's getting.
You
But she's
need
also
another one?
yeah. We need another one.
Yeah, it's funny during COVID when we were supposed to be closed. We didn't. We closed once. But then I only had one assistant, and it was so rough when you're used to having more help. Because we do the same thing. I'm like, we don't all need an assistant, but we probably need like, for 4 artists, you at least need 2 at a time.
Yeah.
Like
That's typically how
That's what we
you need
like
2
to
on
have.
4 kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because a lot of times the assistants, I'll be like, I don't need you right now, and I don't like somebody standing in my space unless I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, you're good, go do wash bowls, do whatever you need to do. You know what I mean? But you do need like at least
At least 2. Yeah. That's
So
where we're
guys, like,
at.
if you're listening to this podcast and you live in not Seattle, where is it?
Olympia.
Muse is
hiring. We're
They were
hiring.
like, you know what? It's so
Shameless
funny.
plug.
It's just shameless plug, but you guys need to switch it to a mentorship. Because
okay.
you got to switch. This is really
Yeah.
bad that I'm saying this on a podcast. Just getting this out. So we were trying to hire assistants after the pandemic because we were down to like 1, and I was like, I refuse to work with one assistant for 4 girls. I can't
Yeah.
do it. And so here's the thing: is having an assistant is an opportunity for them to learn. Imagine if, like you said, I don't care. I'll go move 2 hours and go work at Muse because you wanted the knowledge and the experience and the community inside your salon, right? So instead of, I think assistant has a bad title.
I know.
It's, you know what I mean? It's like
do all of our dirty work.
yeah, do it,
that's
and it's not.
Like,
you have to look. Yeah, you're not going to make a ton as an assistant, but it's almost like when you're in hair school, you're making 0.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
So at least, like as an assistant, you're still learning.
Yeah.
And if you are in a salon in which they are doing, beautiful colors that you love, it's a learning environment. So I even I prop they're assistants, but they're apprentices at my salon.
Yeah.
We don't hire assistants anymore. We're like, would you like to come to my apprentice program? And it's not apprentice program to get your cosmetology hours in. These are graduated.
Yeah.
Not licensed. These are graduated artists. So that might be something I'll tell Julia. I'm like, listen, don't look.
hint that to
you need-
Julia.
it's a better title, don't you think? For instead of an assistant,
Yeah,
it's
it sounds a little nicer.
Yeah, it sounds nicer. Like you're still getting paid, and but plus you get all this knowledge. You know what I mean? It's not just our dirty work. Yeah, you have to do all these things because that's a part of the job. You have to learn all these things so that just like any other service in our industry, like you can do what you want to, but you got to put in your time in the beginning. You kind of got to learn it all, and that still goes down to. And I don't know if you guys feel this way, but it goes that way with marketing too. Like I think artists have an ego about like I just need to be good at the art, and I don't have to put myself out of my comfort zone, or I can just post the pretty pictures. I'm like, guess what? Now
doesn't work anymore.
You have to do it all.
Yeah.
You have to be everything.
You have to
Yes.
be everything, and you have to be like if you're introverted, you got to be extroverted now. Like
Gotta put yourself
you
out
gotta
there.
learn how to write. You got to learn how to be the best. You got to do your numbers. You got to like you can't just be an artist anymore.
No.
Like you're not gonna have success anymore. And that's like one of the things again. Like I'm pretty passionate about is like don't be that artist that's the broke artist. That's the artist that has the ego, right?
Yeah.
Be willing to be uncomfortable. Don't be good at just the art, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy too, like the minute you kind of like, when I first started my brand, I had a pretty big ego. I had to have had an ego to start this crazy shit, right? But I remember thinking like, I'm as good as any artist in LA or New York or whatever. And then I had to have an eye-to-eye conversation with myself. And I was like, bitch, you're not that good. Otherwise your bank account would reflect it and you're not there yet.
Yeah, I
And
feel
was
like we all go through that a little
right?
bit.
It's like, take a step back and be like, okay, where am I really like? Because we get so sucked into the art where we're like, that's so good.
Like, I'm amazing.
I'm so good.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that
You're
feels
not.
this way.
You're not the only one.
But then you're like, okay, like you, in order to have the success that you want, you really have to take like an outside perspective of like everything, not just your art, but your numbers, your marketing, your influence, your engagement, like,
Exactly.
and then your overall quality of life. You know, like, do you hate your husband? You know, I mean, I did for a while. He's
pretty cool.
Sticky. But
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But that's how, like, that's why I was so attracted to the academy when I was first looking into it, is because before, I was working like 5-6 days, taking everything. And so I was getting burnt out. Like I got to the point, like right at the beginning of lockdown, I was thinking, well, maybe I just won't go back to the salon.
Yeah.
Like I was going to switch careers. I wasn't even going to go back to do hair anymore. So just like having the ability now to actually enjoy my life and still feel successful at work, like that's the like best success.
it's like the ultimate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate.
And I
like,
think the word, people get triggered by the word balance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, then let's relabel it. Let's relabel as what is success for you? Success for me is having good relationship with your significant other or your kids or your fur baby.
Yes.
Or just having time for you, right?
Yeah.
Like
Take care of yourself a little bit.
Taking care of yourself, setting yourself up for success for your day, because if you can take care of yourself, you can take care of others even better. Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So, well, you guys, it was really fun to have you on the podcast. I feel like I've definitely gone over our time. We did, but that's okay. I just wanted to hear, I knew with two of us it would take a little bit longer, and I wanted to hear a little bit more of your story. If you guys could give one word of advice to somebody considering doing hair, what would it be?
Doing hair, like just in general.
Like if they're just like thinking about doing hair, maybe they're like in their 30s and they have a couple kids and they're like, should I do hair? I don't know. Or maybe they're in their 20s, but like somebody who's considering doing hair, what would you say to them?
I mean, obviously I would say do hair, but do MBR. Like it's the best way to do hair. Because
if I came to you and I was like, hey, I really want to do hair, but nobody supports me in doing it, and I've really been drawn to it.
Yeah.
I've watched your success over the years.
I mean, like, if you want the support, like, join the Academy, because you have a whole community of artists, and, like, they're there to support you and cheer you on. So you have that support. You won't have to do it by yourself.
How much does that support help you in your journey?
I mean, it's like I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now without it.
Yeah.
And even like being at Muse, like having Julia, like just the support is so necessary for growth. Like you just can't do it alone.
You can do it alone, but you go faster, further together.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, you're up.
Oh, if you're thinking about doing hair, I would say that this industry is limitless. That even if you don't want to do extensions, which I think you should, but like even if you don't want to do extensions, it's just, you don't have to sit back and play small anymore in this industry. Like you can be whatever the hell you want to be. And like, obviously I took this route and I have like, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me, like in my career. So I have all the good things to say, but just mostly, it's limitless. So don't play small, like launch into it. Get all the education you can and believe in yourself. You can like do anything. You can make all the money you want. You can have all the free time you want. You just have to believe in yourself.
Yeah. I like that. I think that goes with any industry. It starts with believing in yourself. So if like hair is something that you've wanted to do or that calls to you, like don't think of it as like you're a hairstylist. That is the trade. That is the tool. And the first thing you have to do is believe in yourself and kind of go for it. And understand that anything is possible if you're willing to create it. It doesn't mean it doesn't get hard, it doesn't get sticky.
Yeah.
But the person you become on the flip side, you'll never look back and be like, oh, I wish I stayed there. That seems better, right?
Yeah.
So, well, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. You guys come to the convention?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, sweet. It's gonna be a good one. Because you guys weren't a part of Mastermind way back in the day.
No.
So it's gonna be a mix. Like I would say it was like not the dark years, but it was like not dark, but like we would open the event and it was just like wham! Like we had girls crying within the first 5 minutes.
Oh,
and I'm like, welcome to my education, but like
You're gonna cry.
You're gonna cry. Listen, so sometimes like artists are like scared to like hear that, but I'm like, you know what though? It's got to be more than just pretty hair.
It does.
It's got to be more than like I have 7 different social media tactics, right? And so it's like I always say like do it and do it scared.
Yeah.
And Academy Convention is so great too for like us inside the tribe and the community to come back and get all fired up again. Like I always joke around. I'm like, after Academy Convention, I feel like I have like this army of artists that were like Spartan 300. And we're like, let's go.
It was definitely me last year.
Right?
Yes.
It's like, so this year we have like, we're inviting just a small group of new students in and kind of trying a mixed event. We've done this in the past. It's really fun. It works out really well. It's given me the opportunity as an educator to see other students kind of rise and like help other new fresh blood out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a great event. So if you guys are listening to this podcast, if you're resonating with any of this message that these beautiful ladies are sharing with you guys, we do have an event that we are finally opening up to a few people publicly for April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th in Huntington Beach, California. I'm going to say 2023 in case you're listening to this next year and it randomly pops up. This might be your only opportunity to join My Education in person. Again, tickets just went on sale, and we only have a limited amount available for the public because we reserve the rest of them for the Academy. So if you guys are interested in joining this event, joining the tribe, joining the community, and learning more than just pretty hair or another hand-tied system, go to mbr.education and reserve your seat. We'll see you guys there. Listen to a new podcast every Tuesday, a new guest, or might possibly just be myself and one of my trainers. But either way, we're a good time. So thank you so much for catching this podcast, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.